Hello everyone and welcome back to another scenario training with J1 Aviation. So the scenario that we're talking about today is what you do if your passenger is starting to feel sick while you're flying. So recently I was flying with our son and these are some of the things that he started to say.
I'm starting to feel like the lightheaded thing.
Oh, you're a little lightheaded?
Yeah, I don't know why.
How you feeling?
Not the best. I don't know.
So let's see how we got here to begin with, and then we'll talk about some of the things to do and to not to do. So he was experiencing motion sickness, which can occasionally affect a high percentage of people. So some of the more common effects, as you probably know, are like sweating, dizziness, headaches, and just generally not feeling well. So it's always good to try to catch these early with your passengers because it can quickly get worse, which leads to vomiting and nausea, which is less than ideal when it happens in your airplane. So motion sickness in general is caused by like conflicts between your visual cues and the things that you are sensing around you and in your inner ear. So it seems like certain things can help bring on motion sickness in an airplane. Things like if it's a warm day, if it's turbulent outside and bumpy, even if your plane is like slightly rocking side to side, or even just being uncomfortable, like if your headset is too tight, you're not in a comfortable position in your seat, or your neck is kind of kinked leaning up against the window or something, or especially if you're starting to fly and you're actually not feeling good to begin with. So then what are some of the ideas that we can think about to help minimize or prevent motion sickness in our passengers? So I guess there are two parts. The first part is trying to prevent it in the first place. And then the second part is, what will you actually do if your passenger gets sick? So to try and prevent it, obviously try to pick nice days to go flying if that's an option. Meaning, flying on days that are not too hot, not too windy, days when there will be lighter turbulence. And I'm sure that's how my boy got sick. So the day we flew, it was in the 90s, there was some wind, we were flying over some Pennsylvania hills, which made the ride a little bit bumpy. And if someone is prone to air sickness and they need to fly, there are medications like Dramamine, which you could take before you fly, which they can take before they fly. And also there's like a anti-nausea wristband, which I've seen. So I don't have any experience with that, but I heard that can actually work well. So also, don't have a big meal before you go flying, right? And again, we ate at an airport restaurant before this flight, so I'm pretty much 0 for 3 on these things so far flying with him. But we enjoy flying for, $100 hamburger, and I think it was the heat and the bumps which ended up getting to him, which made him sick. And then also, but at the same time, you don't want to fly with an empty stomach, right? So best practice is probably like a non-greasy snack, maybe an hour or so before your flight, and then go flying. And then also, obviously, no hygiene maneuvers, no sharp turns, gentle banks, that'll help. So then what do you do if someone in your plane starts to feel sick? Well, I think, first of all, you want to try to find out early, right? So if you catch someone in the very early stages of motion sickness, you have a much better chance of a positive outcome. So this begins with like the pre-flight briefing, right? Let them know, hey, if you start to feel sick, let me know, ASAP. Don't try to be a superhero and hide it. It's common, no big deal. This way they won't feel embarrassed or uncomfortable to bring it up. And they'll feel comfortable talking to you, right? If they start to feel, later in the flight that need arises to bring up this conversation. And then also, if they do bring it up and then they start to feel sick, really fresh air can make a big difference. It can help reduce feelings of nausea and sweating. You can open the fresh air vents. If you have a window that can be open, anything that can help get some fresh air in the cabin. Also, you can try to have them focus right out on the horizon. So like a stable visual reference can help stabilize their perception of movement and help reduce like disorienting effects that can contribute to motion sickness. Also, like taking deep breaths can increase oxygen to the brain and can help, stabilize their physical state and reduce the sensation of nausea. And also anything to take their mind off of it, right? Sometimes talking can be a distraction, get their mind off of it. Telling them how far to go can also set the right expectation. Like, hey, we'll be on the ground in 10 or 15 minutes, and that can maybe be a comfort to them. Sometimes drinking something, ideally something like I don't know, crackers or ginger ale, but likely your in-flight beverage service on your Cessna or Piper is going to be quite limited, so I'm not sure what all you're going to have on hand. And then last but not least, it would be great to have an air sickness bag if it really came to that, but hopefully it doesn't come to that point. So that's kind of for the passenger, but then as you as the pilot, what can you do? So it depends on the weather, but you could think about changing altitudes, right? So maybe going a little bit higher will be cooler, potentially a smoother ride. Maybe if it's bumpy, you could fly slower. And then the difficult decision, is that you are not in a car where you can just pull over and have someone puke alongside the road, right? So as PIC, you need to make that decision. Is it okay to continue the flight, or do we potentially need to land somewhere? So it's not at all convenient to land when you're flying somewhere and someone starts to feel not well in flight, but in hindsight, if things go bad, you might be wishing you made that decision. So then what not to do as a pilot? I would say the big one is don't take unnecessary risks. Don't turn a small problem into a big problem. Example, in this flight, the airport we were flying back into had a busy traffic pattern. And I could have gotten on the ground quicker if I were to do some sort of modified base and then squeeze onto final, try to just jump in between all the other traffic. But I don't know if that's exactly the right decision. So instead I flew a little bit further, properly joined the downwind, joined the traffic pattern, got in line and landed. Now, depending on the severity of the medical incident that you're dealing with, you'll need to make your own judgment call there. Fortunately, in this case, our son got feeling better and the situation turned out fine. So that's about all I can think of for preventing motion sickness in flight. If you had some other ideas or experiences, feel free to drop them in the comments. So thanks everyone for watching today. Hope you join us on a future flight, and thanks for flying J1 Aviation.